Hey guys, tonight we're traveling back to the glittering, grimy heart of the Byzantine Empire, Constantinople, year 542. The city hums with the clatter of sandalwood carts, the chant of dock workers, and the eternal creaking of ancient infrastructure. You step off a creaky merchant galley, the salt still on your lips, clutching a letter of passage, and the naive optimism of someone who hasn't heard a rat sneeze in weeks. The sun's just rising over the Hagia Sophia's dome, casting honey-colored light across the cobbled streets and pigeons that refuse to move for anyone, least of all you. Cloaks flap in the breeze. Fruit vendors are shouting about figs so fresh they offend the gods. And in the harbor, the grain ships from Egypt are running late again. The first thing that hits you isn't the glory, it's the smell. The blend of incense, fish guts, goat sweat, and sweet spiced wine is dizzying. But hey, you're here now. You try to look like you belong. Your tunic is only slightly too short, your boots still smell like home, and no one's told you where the latrines are yet. Still, your forged paperwork holds up, barely, and you're waved through by a guard whose breath could repopulate a trench. Welcome to Constantinople, where half the people are fasting, the other half are fighting, and everyone agrees the city will last forever. Except it won't. It's early spring, and something is already stirring in the alleys. You can't see it yet, but a few harbor cats have gone missing, and the rats? They're just a little bolder than usual. You try not to notice. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're still awake, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wander past the Mizzi, the city's grand central avenue, a place where senators bump shoulders with fishmongers and the air tastes like roasted lamb and wet limestone. You try to walk with purpose, like someone who knows where they're going. Spoiler, you don't. You duck into a side street. On the wall is a fading fresco of Saint Michael doing something dramatic with a demon. It's mostly pigeons now. You pass a bakery with a queue of customers clutching old copper coins and even older bread sacks. You hear them mutter about spoiled wheat and bad omens. You make a mental note to find a job before you're next in that line, muttering about your own omen-based bread. There's a clanging behind you. An old man drops a ceramic chamber pot out his window with no warning. It shatters inches from your foot. He shouts, "Sorry," but doesn't sound sorry. Just tired. You keep walking. People here speak Greek, Latin, Coptic, Armenian, Arabic, sometimes all in the same sentence. You smile and nod at a woman with a falcon on her wrist. She doesn't nod back. Eventually, you find your way to a public fountain where several locals are drawing water with elaborate bronze jugs. You kneel to splash your face, and a man nearby is swearing at a pigeon that won't leave his sandal alone. It's all very dignified. You end up at the Church of the Holy Apostles. Pilgrims are camped out, lighting candles and murmuring about the sickness in Pelusium. You don't know where Pelusium is, and you don't care, until someone says it spread from there to Alexandria, and then to Antioch. And then, well, still, it's just a rumor, right? The bells ring for the 6th hour. You've been awake for too long, but there's no time to rest yet. A man in gold-trimmed robes bumps into you and mutters something about barbarians. You think he's being dramatic. You'll be wrong. That night, you find a spot near the aqueduct to sleep. It's cold but quiet. A cat curls up near your feet. You dream of your home, far from this city of marble and rats and incense. Sardine head left as a gift or a warning. The aqueduct gurgles nearby, carrying water from the Belgrade forest like it has for centuries, or at least when it's not full of frogs. You trudge toward the forum again, following your nose. Constantinople doesn't just look like the center of the world, it smells like it too. Every corner of the city has its own olfactory identity. Spices, livestock, burnt offerings, bad drains, and occasionally a flower market trying its best to overpower all of the above. The marketplace near the Million, The golden milestone that marks the theoretical center of the empire is alive and chaotic. Hawkers are yelling over one another like it's an Olympic sport. You pass a man selling genuine Persian perfume, which smells suspiciously like fermented celery. There's a booth selling beetroot ink, one hawking fish pies shaped like saints, and another promising goat milk that whispers blessings. That one may or may not be a front for something weirder. A butcher waves a haunch of what he claims is beef, but you're pretty sure it once mooed in a minor key. You smile politely and move on. You pass a stall with dried fruit and notice a slight ripple near the sacks. It's a rat. Brazen, too. Just chewing on a fig and staring like it owns the place. Nobody even tries to shoo it away. The sewers under your feet were engineered by Romans who prided themselves on sanitation until they stopped cleaning them 200 years ago. Now they gurgle ominously every time you step on a certain paving stone. You try not to imagine what's floating beneath your sandals. A bread cart trundles past you, trailed by children. The baker shouts that the loaves are fresh, blessed, and vaguely shaped like St. Andrew. He's not wrong. You grab one. It's warm, dense, and will probably chip a tooth by sunset. You wander into a dye workshop where the air is thick with the pungent stink of fermented snails. Murex dye, the famous Tyrian purple, is expensive, precious, and utterly revolting to make. They crack open the sea snails, ferment them for days in vats, and the resulting sludge can stain your skin for weeks. The workers here all wear gloves made of waxed cloth, but their faces still carry the mark. Purple flecks in the corners of their eyes and a permanent wince. One of them smiles at you and says, "Want a job?" You politely decline, citing a fear of snails and long-term olfactory trauma. Over at the harbor, the grain ships are finally unloading. Dockhands are shouting at each other in a delightful mix of threats and poetry. You watch as sacks of wheat are carried into nearby storehouses. It should be a good thing. Finally, bread for the masses. But the air feels wrong. Several of the sacks are crawling. You blink. Nope, not your imagination. Fleas, lots of them. You take a step back. A man sneezes nearby twice. He laughs it off and says, "Too much basil last night." A woman next to him clutches her child a little closer. You wander through the public baths, marveling at how much hot water, gossip, and mildew a society can generate. The steam rooms are packed, the floors slick, and you've never seen so many strategically placed towels. A man next to you offers a paste for your skin, made from crocodile dung and almond oil. You take some. Why not? At this point, you're open to minor luxuries and poor decisions. Historians still argue whether the Justinianic Plague was already spreading widely at this early moment, whether it simmered for months before boiling over. Some say the rats and fleas made their entrance quietly, hitching rides in the corners of ships and warehouses long before symptoms showed. Others claim it hit like thunder, with no warning at all. You decide to believe the slow burn version. It's easier to sleep at night thinking the apocalypse gives you a few warning sneezes. As evening falls, the city doesn't quiet, it just shifts tones. Taverns fill up with wine-slick philosophers arguing about Aristotle and shoe taxes. A small theater troupe performs a tragicomedy about a fisherman who marries a sea nymph and regrets it. You laugh once, then feel bad about it. The wine is sour. The air is sweet. And there's that smell again, somewhere between burning wood and old garlic. You look up and see something scurry across the rooftop. Another rat. This one's dragging what looks like a string of sausage. Bold, efficient, possibly infected. You turn in for the night, bedding down near a baker's oven for warmth. Someone is crying softly 2 buildings down. You don't ask. You close your eyes. The smell lingers.
You wake up to coughing. Not your own, thankfully. At least not yet, but a rough, wet sound echoing through the alley like someone trying to lose a lung and win a prize for it. You peek around the corner and see a man hunched over a bucket. He waves you off with a weak joke about drinking bad wine. You wave back, half smiling, and walk away a little faster than before. You head toward the city's western districts, and where the poor stack themselves like amphorae in crumbling tenements. Roof tiles are missing, laundry lines stretch like spider webs between buildings, and chickens roam freely, as though they too have tenure here. This is where Constantinople's real life pulses. It's louder, smellier, and weirder than the imperial forums. A woman is selling leeches out of a wooden bucket and swears they can cure the melancholy. You consider it, then remember your melancholy has been working pretty hard lately and deserves a rest. A cluster of children dart past you, laughing. One of them throws a fig at your head. The fig is suspiciously warm. You duck into a side alley to escape the chaos and find yourself in front of a tiny shrine tucked into the wall. A candle burns, unmoving in the windless nook, and the icon of Saint Thecla is flaking with age. Someone's left a bundle of garlic and a scrap of cloth soaked in wine. Offerings or leftovers? In Constantinople, it's hard to tell. An old woman with a basket of herbs is muttering nearby. You try to strike up a conversation, but she just says, "It's here," and wanders off. You don't ask what it is. That day, you pass a man selling amulets made of bone and wax. "Protection from the Nile demons," he shouts. You didn't know the Nile had demons, but it's not the strangest thing you've heard today. You buy one. It smells faintly of goat. At the Monastery of Studios, monks are copying texts and muttering prayers. You watch for a while as one monk illuminates the margin with a tiny drawing of what looks suspiciously like a chicken wearing a crown. You decide not to ask. Nearby, two men are arguing over the nature of the Trinity, gesturing wildly with loaves of bread. One loaf is thrown. It misses. Both men laugh, then sneeze simultaneously. You step back. Rumors have begun to circulate. Nothing official, nothing stamped or sealed, but whispers spread faster than the disease itself. A ship from Egypt, a fever, a swelling in the groin. Some say it's divine punishment. Others think it's poisoned air. One man insists it's caused by onions. You clutch your lunch nervously. You head toward the harbor, following a group of laborers carrying empty stretchers. They don't explain. They don't need to. That night, in the forum, a government official tries to calm a crowd by reciting old victories. "Remember when Justinian crushed the Vandals?" Someone shouts. It doesn't help. The official stammers something about the city's aqueducts being miracles of Roman design, but is interrupted by a child vomiting on his boots. You sleep in a different alley this time. The baker's oven is cold. The cat is gone again. You dream of home, this time with added fleas. When you wake, the coughing has gotten closer. It's everywhere now. Deep, rattling, unproductive coughs. The kind that say I've given up on lungs as a concept. Historians still argue whether the plague entered the city on that first Egyptian grain ship, or whether it snuck in earlier, hiding in 1,000 small ways until it bloomed like rot under a painted fresco. There's no certainty, just rising panic. At midday, the hippodrome is oddly quiet. No races today. The stalls sit empty. The imperial box is draped with silk, but no one occupies it. You sit alone for a while, letting the wind play with your hair. You hear a man walking by whisper, "The emperor has locked himself in the palace." You don't blame him. Someone nearby offers you wine. You take it. It burns your throat in a good way. The second sip, less so. The third, well, that one might have been vinegar with illusions of grandeur. Later, near the church of St. Polyeuctus, you see something odd, a group of citizens digging a long trench in silence. No one speaks, no one cries. They're building something they'll need soon. Too soon. You wonder if you should help. You don't. You walk home in the dark. You hear bells, not church bells, small ones. The city has started to stink. You'd expect the markets to smell of garlic, fish, sweat, and maybe a hint of overripe pomegranate, but now the air carries something different. It's heavier, sweeter, sicklier, like milk left out under the sun and then politely set on fire. You don't talk about it. People have stopped pretending everything's fine. Yesterday, a man passed out in the bread line and no one picked him up. Today, the bread line's gone. At the Great Palace, Rumor has it that Emperor Justinian hasn't been seen in days. Some whisper he's dead. Others swear he's locked in a fever dream, attended by priests and physicians who lead him with leeches and chant in Latin. A few claim he's trying to write laws in the middle of it all, because why not revise Roman legal codes during a pandemic? You find that oddly comforting. Outside the city walls, the fields are beginning to yellow. Laborers refuse to work the land. Who can blame them? Word is the countryside's no better. Villages emptied overnight. Crops going to seed. Goats wandering into chapels, bleating as if to say, "Sorry, didn't realize this was sacred." Inside the city, things are unraveling. Funeral processions used to be solemn events. Incense, psalms, mourning women in dark veils. Now bodies are bundled into carts and wheeled through the streets in grim parades. The priests bless them as they go past, barely pausing between muttered prayers. It's like watching a very slow, very tragic delivery service. A man offers you a job helping with the dead. He says, 5 solidi a day if you don't mind the smell. You mind. You decline. He shrugs and moves on. Someone else will say yes. By afternoon, you spot people walking with scarves over their faces. Others smear themselves with strong-smelling pastes, garlic, vinegar, and something that might be crushed beetles. One woman dabs frankincense behind her ears like perfume. You pass a sign hastily painted onto a wall. Flee while you can. Below it, someone has scrawled, "Flee to where?" You feel that. In the neighborhood near the baths of Zeuxippus, children are playing a game called Dead Cart. One lies down while others wheel him along in a rickety cart and chant funeral hymns in squeaky voices. Their parents watch in silence. That night, the city's darker than usual. Fewer torches, fewer people on the streets. You hear chanting in the distance, a group of monks processing by candlelight, praying loudly to Saint Sebastian, patron of plagues. They don't stop walking, even when someone coughs violently behind them. You try to sleep on the roof of a bathhouse. It's safer up high, you think. Fewer rats, fewer fleas, more wind. The stars are out. For a moment, it's almost peaceful. Until someone below begins to scream. You don't go down to check. The next morning, a merchant tries to sell you a salve made of rose oil and lead. He insists it repels the black breath. You buy a tiny vial, if only because the bottle is pretty and your coin pouch is lighter than your stomach. You see an old friend on the Mies, the main street. He smiles weakly, then lifts his tunic to show you a swollen lump under his arm. You both stare at it. Neither of you say anything. Later, outside the Church of the Holy Apostles, bodies are stacked like cordwood. A priest waves incense in wide, desperate arcs. His hands are shaking. The crowd keeps its distance. No one is burying them fast enough. Historians still argue about the scale. Some say 10,000 died in a week. Others claim it was twice that. There are stories, almost unbelievable, about 70 to 80,000 deaths over the course of the outbreak. But there's no way to count when the counters themselves are gone. You find a fountain still flowing. You wash your face and wonder if the water is safe. Then you remember water doesn't carry fleas, and fleas don't care how clean your face is. A cat stares at you from a ledge. It blinks slowly, judgingly. You imagine it saying, "Told you so." By midday, people start boarding up their homes. Entire streets go quiet. Doors are shut, windows covered. It's like the city has blinked and forgotten to open its eyes. You pass a man kneeling in the street, praying in Coptic. He's drawing a circle around himself in ash. When you step near, he mutters, "The angel passes over the marked." You tiptoe away. Near the docks, the grain ships sit idle. No one wants to unload them. They say the last crew had boils under their tongues and were tossed overboard before reaching shore. The cargo rots in the hold. Someone steals a jar of spoiled olives. You pretend not to see. That evening, a woman stands on her roof singing lullabies to no one. Her voice is thin, but the notes float down like falling leaves. You don't recognize the language. You don't ask. The city sleeps in patches now, not like before. Not full of laughter and wine, just exhausted silence broken by coughing, crying, or the occasional cartwheel. You curl up near the hippodrome under a marble arch. The wind brushes your skin. Somewhere in the distance, bells toll, not for vespers, but for the dead. Again. You wake up before dawn, though it's hard to tell. The city no longer has a rhythm. The sunrise used to bring warmth, street chatter, the clang of bronze pots. Now it brings a pale, cold quiet, as if the sun itself is hesitating, unsure whether to bother showing up. You stretch on the stone floor of the hippodrome arch and instantly regret it. Something crunchy. You hope it was a fig pit. There's no breakfast. The bakeries haven't lit their ovens in days. Even the pigeons look hungrier than usual. One flaps down beside you, pecks at your sandal, decides you're not food, and flies away disappointed. You try to stand, but your limbs are sluggish. Maybe you're just tired. Maybe not. You pass a basilica with its doors wide open. Inside, rows of cots fill the nave. Priests and monks tend to the sick, whispering prayers over people too weak to lift their heads. The smell of incense mingles with rot. A nun hands you a scrap of dried fruit and warns you not to stay long. You nod and leave, fruit untouched. Near the Forum of Constantine, a public speaker, more hopeful than wise, is reciting passages from Homer to a vacant square. He performs the part of Odysseus with gusto. His only audience is a one-eyed dog and two rats engaged in what looks like a turf war. The speaker doesn't seem to mind. You wonder if madness is contagious. Someone has scrawled a message on the column's base. The gods are gone. Below it in red, try the old ones. You don't like what that implies. In the slums behind the baths of Arcadius, you stumble across a strange sight, a group of men and women dancing in a circle around a fire pit. They chant in a language that sounds ancient, almost pre-Greek. A woman catches your eye and smiles. Her teeth are blue. You don't ask why, you move on quickly. There are whispers of a new miracle cure. Some say it's goat fat boiled with wine. Others insist it's fasting for 3 days and sleeping upside down. One man claims eating honey that's been blessed by an astrologer saved his cousin's neighbor's cat. You consider trying it. You pass a boarded-up house with markings scratched into the door, symbols not letters. A bowl of blackened fruit sits outside like an offering. A crow hops near, pecks it once, and hops away without touching the rest. The fruit is left to rot. No one moves to clean it up. Later, you visit the seawalls. The view used to be beautiful, glimmering water, ships sailing in from Alexandria or Antioch. Now, the harbor lies still. The water reflects the gray sky. Ships sit abandoned. The sails flap in the wind like tired ghosts. Two fishermen sit silently, lines cast but eyes unfocused. One mutters, "The fish know." You pretend not to hear. The imperial court has gone silent. The gates are locked, guards absent. Word is Justinian is still alive. Barely. They say he fell ill last week and turned the color of mulberries. But he lives. Or maybe a look-alike does. It depends who you ask. Historians still argue whether Justinian truly survived the first wave of plague, or whether his double ruled in his place for a time. There's even a theory that he dictated laws from his sickbed, yet so feverish that his scribes had to guess what he meant. Hence the legal code's more confusing passages. You head back through the alleys and pass a man ringing a small bell. "Bring out your dead," he says. You pause. You realize he's not a city official, just someone who wants to sound important. His cart is empty. The bell is made of clay. You keep walking. At a public bathhouse, a group of elderly women sits in a drained pool, playing a quiet game with pebbles. One of them explains it's called river stones. You sit for a moment, grateful for the company. The rules are unclear, but gentle. No one wins. You share a laugh when a pebble bounces off someone's forehead. It feels like the most human moment you've had in days. Then one of the women coughs. The others freeze. She coughs again. They scatter like startled birds. You do too. There's a garden near the old wall where you sometimes go to sit. It's overgrown now. Vines climbing the marble statues, lavender choking the fountain. You find a bench, lie down, and watch a snail crawl across your boot. Someone has carved a message into the backrest. If I turn to stone, let it be here. You trace the letters with your finger. They're still fresh. By twilight, the city feels more haunted than alive. The amphora shop has burned down. No one put out the fire. The flames lit up the street for hours. People just watched from windows, silent as owls. You remember stories from your childhood. Tales of cities swallowed by the earth or cursed by gods or forgotten by time. You wonder if Constantinople is about to become one of them. You fall asleep that night listening to the soft creak of an empty swing blowing in the wind. You dream of ships sailing away without passengers, of temples echoing with laughter that isn't real, of a city where no one speaks anymore, only listens. To what? You don't want to know.
The days start to blur together. When you wake up, it's not the warm sunlight that greets you, but the heavy weight of silence that sits on the city. The streets are strangely still, as though the air itself is holding its breath, unwilling to disturb the mournful quiet that has taken over. You wander aimlessly past the empty agora, where the merchants once shouted for attention. Now only a few cobblers sit, their shops barely open, their faces drawn with fatigue. The old man with the crooked back who used to sell olives has disappeared. So has the fruit vendor, the one with the bright red pomegranates that never lasted more than an hour on his stall. They're all gone. Instead, a few locals gather at the base of an old column. They stand together but apart, murmuring among themselves. Someone's holding a half-empty jug of wine, but no one is drinking. Someone says the emperor's been buried, quickly and without ceremony, just as his physicians predicted. There's no sign of the coronation ceremony, no parade of soldiers marching into the streets, no triumph, just a few whispered words and the scuff of boots as they dragged his body out of the palace. At first, you wonder if it's true. But then you see the statue of the emperor, the one that used to gleam with gold in the sunlight, is covered with a dirty, tattered cloth. The cloth sags like it's trying to hide a secret. You try to imagine a time when life here was different, when laughter rang out from taverns and music echoed from the public baths, but now nothing makes any sound except for the wind, the occasional cough, and the scuffling of feet. You make your way through the district where the artisans used to gather. There's no singing of anvils ringing on hot metal. No clinking of coins exchanged for jewelry or finely crafted pottery. There's only a distant, persistent whine of a dog that never stops, its howl cutting through the empty streets. Someone mentions rumors of a cure, a potion being brewed by an apothecary in the outskirts, mixing strange ingredients under the cover of night. Some claim it's a blend of wormwood and honey. Others say it's a concoction with the heart of a freshly killed bat. No one knows what's in it, and no one can afford to take a chance. You pass a statue of the goddess Artemis, her face weathered and worn but still elegant, and wonder if the old gods have turned their backs on the city. Perhaps they've abandoned it, leaving the people to fend for themselves. After all, it's not as if any divine intervention has appeared to stop the plague. No grand miracles, no angels descending from the heavens. You pass a group of women, their heads bowed, their clothes ragged, sitting in a circle. They don't speak. They don't even glance at you as you walk past. They're simply waiting. Waiting for what? You think about it, but you don't have an answer. There's no easy explanation for anything anymore. It's like trying to read a book with half the pages torn out. You start to suspect that maybe this is the new normal. A city without answers. A world full of questions no one can answer. Your thoughts are interrupted by a loud clattering sound coming from the direction of the hippodrome. You turn to see a cart pulled by two exhausted horses rumbling along the cobblestone streets. It's a funeral cart, piled high with bodies wrapped in linen. The driver, a man with hollow eyes, steers it past you without looking up. The smell hits you immediately, the heavy scent of decay. You pull your tunic higher over your nose and step aside, watching as the cart slowly disappears down the street. No one speaks. No one reacts. In the distance, you can hear the faint sound of a bell tolling, though you don't know where it's coming from. The bells have become a regular sound now, a background hum in the silence of the city. Some say they ring for the dead. Others say it's to warn of what's coming next. You find a place to sit, a small courtyard hidden behind a row of abandoned shops. The air is still, but there's a hint of something stirring beneath it. It could be the weight of fear, or it could be the tension of a city on the edge of something worse. Whatever it is, you don't want to stay long enough to find out. You begin to walk again, your feet dragging as you move through the empty streets. The city feels almost like a dream now, something you can't quite remember, something fading away at the edges of your vision. A fleeting memory of a place you once knew, but can no longer recognize. A woman approaches, her eyes sunken. She's carrying a small bundle wrapped in a blanket. Her face is pale, but she's walking with purpose, as though there's still something she needs to do. She passes by you without a word, her gaze fixed straight ahead, as though she doesn't see you. For a moment you wonder if you're invisible, but then she's gone. The streets seem to stretch on forever. The longer you walk, the less it feels like the city you once knew. Buildings that once stood proudly are now broken shells, half collapsed and abandoned. What was once a place of bustle and commerce is now a tomb, empty and cold. You wonder if you'll make it out. You wonder if anyone will. The sun, when it finally peeks through the clouded sky, is dull and lifeless. It casts a pale glow over the city, but it does little to banish the darkness that's settled in. You find yourself back at the great palace, staring up at the walls that have stood for centuries. They're the same walls you've known all your life, but now they seem alien, like the bones of a forgotten animal. Maybe it's time to leave. But where would you go? You try to answer that question, but the only response is the whisper of the wind and the dull tolling of the bell. The nights have grown colder. You wake up shivering, tucked into a small corner behind an abandoned shop. You had meant to find a safer place to sleep, perhaps the ruins of a forgotten temple or one of the old villas near the city's edge. But exhaustion overcame you, and you collapsed where you could. The first thing you notice when you open your eyes is the silence. It's like the city itself is holding its breath. The usual chatter of city life is absent. No clattering pots, no footsteps rushing past, no voices calling out greetings. Just the distant, eerie hum of wind moving through the empty streets. You stretch your arms, but the ache in your body only deepens. You think you might be getting sick, too. You try to shake off the thought, but it lingers like a shadow you can't outrun. It's hard to tell what time it is, but the light filtering in from the cracked door tells you it's morning. Or maybe afternoon. You don't know. Time has stopped meaning much here. You start walking again, retracing your steps down streets that seem narrower today, their edges fraying like the city's spirit. Even the familiar sights have begun to look alien. The aqueducts that once carried fresh water into the city are silent now, broken in places. Their once glistening stone weathered and cracked. The marketplace, where fruit vendors used to shout prices, is empty. The stalls are either collapsed or abandoned, the remains of old tarps fluttering weakly in the breeze. You pass a well, its stone lip half buried by dirt. You reach down to test it, but there's no water. You try another well further down the street. The same. It's impossible not to think of the old stories. How the city was once the heartbeat of the empire. How they built aqueducts and cisterns, ensuring that water would flow like the lifeblood of the empire itself. Now, it feels as though even the city's blood has run dry. In the distance, you hear a faint murmur. It's a voice, low, almost melodic, but in a strange tongue you don't recognize. You follow the sound, and after a few turns, you find a small group gathered at the ruins of an old basilica. The air is thick with incense, and the air smells of something both sweet and sour, a scent that clings to the back of your throat. The people are speaking in hushed voices, their heads bowed, their faces hidden under hoods. You recognize some of them: the old merchant who sold woolen cloaks, a soldier you once saw guarding the gate, but their faces have changed. They are thinner, paler, their eyes dull. One of the figures rises, his voice like a whisper against the crackling silence. "The gods have gone," he says, his words slow and deliberate. "We are left to our own devices." You nod as though you understand, though part of you wonders whether you're already too far gone to recognize the truth. The man speaks again, more forcefully now. "We must turn to the old gods, the ones who still hear us." You watch them closely as they pass around a bowl filled with something you can't quite make out. It smells faintly of herbs and something else, something sour. The air grows thick with the scent. You decide not to ask. Somehow, the thought of participating in whatever strange ritual they're about to perform doesn't feel right. Instead, you turn and leave, walking back into the streets of the city where the shadows seem to stretch longer than usual. It's as though the sun itself has lost its warmth and its strength. You head toward the Hippodrome. You can't explain why. There's something magnetic about it now, the place where so many of the city's grand events once unfolded. The races, the chariot teams, the cheers of the crowd, all of that seems like a dream now. But as you reach the outer walls of the Hippodrome, you realize something has changed. The great arena is empty. The stalls for spectators are abandoned, the seats dust-covered and cracked. You walk through the entrance where the sound of horses used to ring in your ears, where the earth once shook beneath the weight of the chariots. Now all that's left is a faint echo. Your footsteps are the only sound, hollow and lonely. The ground is cracked, and bits of the old stonework are broken, lying in heaps like bones. In the center of the arena, you spot a solitary figure, a man dressed in rags. He's kneeling on the ground, his hands pressed to the earth as if he's trying to pull it back together. His face is streaked with dirt and his hair matted with something thick and dark. He doesn't look up as you approach, but you can see the tremble in his body. "What are you doing?" you ask softly. He doesn't answer. Instead, he continues his task, his hands digging into the cracked earth. The closer you get, the more you realize he's not just trying to restore the ground. He's looking for something buried deep beneath. His lips move in a whisper, and though you can't hear the words, you know what he's saying. It's a prayer, a plea for something. Maybe for help. Maybe for an end. You step back, feeling the weight of the moment settle into your bones. It feels as though the city itself is trying to heal, but it doesn't know how. It's like a person sick and tired of being sick, trying to fight off a fever that won't break. As you turn to leave, you catch a glimpse of the sky. It's gray, but not the usual pale gray of dawn. It's dark, heavy, almost like the clouds are about to collapse under their own weight. You wonder, with a sudden strange certainty, if this is how it ends. If the city will slowly crumble, its bones picking apart like old temples, while the world around it moves on without a second thought. And yet, there's still hope, no matter how faint, that something could change, that the sun could change, that the sun could shine again, that the water could flow and the streets could once more echo with life. But for now, the silence remains, and you, like the rest of the city, continue waiting. The day passes slowly, as though the hours themselves are dragging their feet. You've grown accustomed to the silence, but that doesn't mean it's not suffocating. It clings to you like the dust on your skin, heavy and unyielding. Everywhere you go, there are reminders of what once was, but what's missing is just as loud. It's the little things that make it worse. The empty market stalls, the abandoned children's games in the streets, the sudden absence of the music from the old taverns that used to play well into the night. It's like the soul of the city has left, and you're left behind, an unwilling witness to its slow decline. You find yourself walking toward the Senate House, perhaps hoping to find some signs of life, some flicker of governance, even if it's faint. But as you approach, you can't help but notice the cracks in the stone walls. The doors, once grand and sturdy, are now weak, barely hanging on their hinges. A few guards stand watch, their uniforms dirty and torn. One of them coughs, and the other looks at him with a wearied, almost vacant gaze. There's no one to command them, you think. No orders. No direction. And they seem fine with it. As you enter the Senate House, the air is thick, almost suffocating. The once pristine marble floors are covered in grime. The pillars that once gleamed with authority now sag under the weight of neglect. You can almost feel the shadows of former senators who used to argue passionately in this very space, debating the future of an empire that now feels like a distant dream. Now there's nothing. One of the guards steps forward and mutters something to you in passing, his voice so soft that it's barely audible. You don't catch it, and it doesn't matter. You move deeper into the building, past what must have been offices and chambers where plans for war, treaties, and grand constructions were once made. Now all of that has been abandoned. The scrolls and records of the empire lie discarded, some eaten away by time and the occasional scavenger. You reach what remains of the Senate's main hall. The once sturdy benches are now rotted away. The banners that used to hang above the dais are now reduced to tattered rags fluttering weakly in the stale breeze. Here, it's eerily quiet. You sit on one of the benches, running your hand across the dusty surface. You think about what the senators would have said if they had known how their beloved city would end. Would they have done anything differently? Would they have been able to save it? Or was this inevitable? A slow, creeping death of a civilization that had no idea what was coming. It's strange, sitting here in the darkened hall, imagining those who once held power in this very room. They were men and women of ambition, of vision. But now they're just faces in the pages of forgotten history, dust in the wind. No one will remember them, at least not in the way they imagined. And in a way, that's comforting. Maybe it's better to fade away unnoticed, quietly slipping into the cracks, than to be remembered for a fall so catastrophic. A low cough snaps you from your reverie. You look up and see a figure standing in the shadows at the far end of the room. It's a man, but his face is obscured by the dark. For a moment, you think he might be a ghost, some specter from the past come to remind you of the things you've lost. But then he steps forward, and you see his clothes, a rough spun tunic and boots caked with mud. His hands are calloused, his face covered in a beard that hasn't seen a razor in weeks. He's real, but just barely. I thought I'd find someone here, he says, his voice hoarse, as if he hasn't spoken in days. Why here? You ask, though the answer is obvious. He's looking for something too, a connection, a sense of purpose. Or maybe just a reminder that he's still alive. Maybe it's just the last place to go, he replies. Maybe this is where it all started, where it will end. You don't respond. You don't have to. There's nothing to say anymore, nothing that could make this any better. The man takes a seat across from you, his eyes scanning the room, though it's hard to tell what he's looking for. For a moment, he seems lost, as though he's trying to hold on to something that no longer exists. He speaks again, his voice quieter now. I think the city's dying, you know. You nod. Of course, you know. But you're still here, he adds. That means something, doesn't it? You look at him. There's a wildness in his eyes, a desperation to find meaning in the madness. You want to say something, anything to comfort him, to tell him it's not too late. But you can't. You can't lie to him, not when everything you've seen tells you that there's nothing left. He stands abruptly, his feet scuffing against the floor. You should leave, he says, his tone flat, as though he's giving you advice. But it's not really advice at all. It's a warning. Why? You ask, unsure of what he means. Because it won't get better, he says, his voice low. The plague doesn't care who you are. It'll take anyone. With that, he turns and walks out, disappearing through the crumbling doorway. You sit in the Senate hall for a while longer, lost in thought. You think about his words, and the weight of them sinks into your chest like a stone. There's no safety here. Not anymore. You leave the building, your steps slow and heavy. The wind picks up again, pushing against you like a reminder of how fragile everything is. The city is still standing, but you can feel the tension in the air. It's the tension before the storm, the moment just before the inevitable fall. Maybe it's time to leave, as the stranger suggested. Maybe there's somewhere else to go, somewhere where the air isn't so thick with the stench of decay. But for now, all you can do is walk, your feet moving without any clear destination, like the city itself, lost, waiting for the end.
The sun is sinking lower in the sky now, casting long, soft shadows across the broken city. It's an odd, almost surreal sight, the vibrant golden hues of the setting sun clashing against the grim reality of a city fading into history. In the distance, you can hear the faint cry of birds, but it's like they've forgotten their song. Even the animals seem uneasy. You haven't made much progress in the last few hours, your mind wandering aimlessly as you pass by empty homes, abandoned temples, and collapsed walls. The world feels heavy, as if the weight of the past is pressing down on you from every side, suffocating you with its silence. As you walk, your thoughts flicker to the people you've met along the way, strangers who have become more like shadows, lost souls drifting in and out of the ruins. You can't help but wonder, how many more are still out there, clinging to what little hope remains, or if they too have given in to the despair that seems to seep into every crack of the city. But then, in the corner of your eye, you see something strange, a flicker of movement, something small, perhaps a child. You stop in your tracks, unsure whether it's real or just a trick of the fading light. But then you hear it, a faint, distant giggle, like a whisper on the wind. You move closer, following the sound. It grows louder as you approach, until you find yourself standing in front of a collapsed building, its entrance hidden by piles of rubble. You hesitate for a moment, unsure whether to go in, but something about the sound draws you forward. You step carefully over the rubble and enter the building, the air musty and thick with the scent of old wood and stone. Inside, you find a small group of people, mostly women and children, huddled together in the shadows. They're gathered around a fire, its flickering light casting strange shapes on the walls. Their eyes meet yours, wary, but there's no immediate hostility. In fact, there's something oddly peaceful about the scene. The child you heard earlier sits in the center of the group, a small girl with bright eyes holding a small doll in her hands. She doesn't seem scared or worried, just content, as though she's found a safe haven in the midst of all this chaos. She looks up at you, her eyes curious, but there's no fear. Maybe she doesn't understand what's happening, or maybe she's just too young to care. You kneel down to her level, your tired muscles protesting the movement, and smile softly. "What are you doing here?" you ask, your voice quiet, almost a whisper. The little girl doesn't answer right away. Instead, she points to the fire. You follow her gaze, and for a moment, you're lost in the dance of the flames. Its warmth, the soft crackling sound, the way it seems to flicker and breathe with life of its own. "Keeping warm," she says, her voice surprisingly steady for one so young. "Waiting for the sun to come back." There's something hauntingly innocent in her words. It's as if, in her mind, the sun's disappearance is just a temporary thing, that it will come back, that things will go back to how they were. You sit with them for a while, the fire crackling between you, its warmth bringing a strange comfort to your bones. The others don't speak much, but you don't mind. Sometimes silence is the only language that makes sense in times like these. After a while, one of the women stands and comes over to you. Her face is drawn with wariness, but there's a quiet strength to her, something that suggests she's endured much in her time. She offers you a bowl of what looks like a simple stew, thin but warm. "You should eat," she says, her voice soft but firm. "It's all we have, but it's better than nothing." You take the bowl, thankful for the kindness, and settle down to eat. The stew is bland, but it's nourishing in a way that you haven't felt in days. As you eat, you feel the warmth of the fire seep into your bones, and for a moment, the weight of the city's decay lifts from your shoulders, if only briefly. The woman sits down beside you after a while, watching the fire with a look of quiet contemplation. "You know," she says, her voice almost wistful, "I used to come here with my husband. We'd sit just like this, watch the fire burn. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He always said that as long as we had each other, we'd be fine." You nod, understanding more than you can put into words. Everyone has lost something. The city, once teeming with life and promise, is now reduced to ruins. But even in the ruins, people still find reasons to hope. Even in the smallest gestures, a warm meal, a quiet moment by the fire, they cling to whatever they can. But you can't help but wonder how much longer it will last. How long will the people in this forgotten corner of the world hold on, waiting for a future that may never come? As night falls, the temperature drops and the shadows grow longer. You can't stay here forever. You know that. But for now, you let the warmth of the fire, the soft laughter of the children, and the quiet companionship of strangers soothe your soul, if only for a moment. You don't speak much after that. The fire burns low, and one by one, the group drifts off to sleep. The little girl curls up next to her mother, clutching her doll tightly, and you lie down beside the fire, the warmth from the embers pressing against your skin. You close your eyes, the crackling of the fire and the soft rustle of the wind outside mingling in a lullaby that's oddly comforting. For now, in this small, forgotten space, the world feels a little less empty. The morning comes quietly, as though it, too, is reluctant to wake. The first light of dawn spills softly through the cracks in the crumbling walls, bathing the room in a faint, golden glow. You stir, slowly, unwilling to leave the warmth of your sleep, the dreamlike fog that clings to your mind. But the reality of the city calls you back, its emptiness beckoning with silent persistence. You sit up, stretching your stiff limbs, and glance around at the group still asleep near the fire. The little girl still clutches her doll, her small chest rising and falling with her gentle breath. The others are curled up, huddling together for warmth, their faces drawn with exhaustion. They are survivors, but even survivors need rest. You stand, careful not to disturb them, and step outside into the cool morning air. The sky is pale, washed out, as though the color itself has been drained from the world. The streets are empty, save for the occasional scavenger picking through the rubble. The world has slowed down to a crawl, and every step you take feels like a move through history, through a city that once thrived but is now clinging to the last threads of its existence. You walk down the street, your footsteps muffled by the dust, and think about the strangers you've met. They are fragments of a broken world, each one holding on in their own way, finding comfort in the smallest of things. You wonder how they've managed to stay so calm in the face of it all. Maybe they've accepted it, that the end is inevitable. Maybe they've made peace with the fact that this city, this empire, is no longer theirs. But you haven't. You feel the weight of it as you walk, the sense that this is all slipping away, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. The city, once filled with power and promise, is now just a shadow of what it was. You pass the remains of grand buildings, their statues broken, their columns cracked. The old baths, once a sanctuary of luxury and relaxation, are now empty, their pools still and lifeless. The air smells of decay, of things that have been abandoned too long. There's a strange kind of sadness in it, this slow fading. It's not the quick, violent end you expect, but a drawn-out unraveling, a gradual disappearance. It's like watching something you once loved slip through your fingers, slowly until there's nothing left to hold on to. As you continue walking, you notice the distant sound of coughing. It's not loud, but it's there, persistent, echoing through the empty streets. You look around, but no one seems to be nearby. The sound continues, growing louder, closer, and you begin to recognize it for what it is. The plague. It's still here, lingering in the air, just beyond sight. You can feel it, even if you can't see it. It's the quiet presence in the background, the shadow that follows you wherever you go. You've seen its effects firsthand, and though you haven't yet fallen victim to it, you know it's only a matter of time. The whispers of death are all around you, but no one talks about it openly. It's as if acknowledging it makes it real, more real than it already is. You walk faster now, your pace picking up as you try to outrun the feeling of it, the sense that the end is closing in. You pass by the remains of a marketplace, once bustling with merchants and customers, now empty and overrun with weeds. The food stalls are abandoned, their signs hanging crookedly in the breeze. The smell of rotten fruit and spoiled meat lingers in the air. You stop for a moment, letting the scene wash over you. The emptiness. The quiet. It's almost unbearable. This was once a place of life, a center of trade, of exchange, and now it's just another ruin, another casualty of the plague that has slowly consumed everything. You're not sure where you're going anymore. There's no destination, no clear path. You just keep walking, moving through the city as if trying to find something to hold on to, something that reminds you that there was once more to this place than the decay and the silence. As you wander, you come across a small group of people gathered near a fountain. They're not talking, not really. They just sit together, sharing the same space, the same weight of silence. You approach cautiously, unsure of what to say, but one of them looks up at you. He's older than the others, his hair thin and gray, his eyes tired but sharp. He nods at you, and for a moment you think he might say something. Something profound, something that will make all of this make sense. But instead, he just looks down at the water in the fountain, the surface still and dark. "There's nothing left to say," he mutters almost to himself. "We've all said it before." You stand there for a moment, unsure of what to do, but then you turn away, leaving the group behind. There's no use in staying with people who have already accepted their fate. You need to keep moving. You need to find something, even if it's just a reason to keep going. The sun is higher in the sky now, and the streets seem even emptier than before. The wind picks up, carrying with it the faint scent of salt from the distant sea. It's a reminder that the world is still turning, even if
the day stretches on, slow and unyielding, as if the sun itself is in no hurry to move across the sky. The heat rises from the cracked cobblestones, and you feel it pressing against your skin, a constant reminder that you are here, alive, while so much else has faded away. You don't know what to do with this feeling, this heavy, oppressive sense of being stuck in a moment, unable to escape, unable to move forward. The sound of your footsteps echoes in the empty streets, the only noise breaking the otherwise perfect silence of the city. But even that starts to fade as you wander deeper into the labyrinth of ruins. There's something unsettling about the quiet here, something that gnaws at the edges of your mind. It's as if the world itself is holding its breath, waiting for something. Maybe it's waiting for you, or maybe it's just waiting for the inevitable. Either way, you can't shake the feeling that you're walking through a place that no longer belongs to the living. The old buildings, their walls cracked and crumbling, seem to watch you as you pass by. You wonder how many generations once called this place home, how many families sat around fires like the one you shared last night, telling stories, living lives, making memories. And now, all of it is gone, erased, swept away by the slow, relentless tide of time. But as you walk, you begin to notice something strange, a faint noise. It's barely perceptible at first, just a whisper, a rustle, like something moving through the air. You stop in your tracks, your heart skipping a beat as you strain to hear it. For a moment, all you can hear is the wind, a soft sigh in the distance, and then there it is again, the whisper. It's coming from a narrow alleyway just ahead, hidden between two crumbling buildings. You take a deep breath, your pulse quickening, and cautiously step toward it. The alley is narrow, its entrance barely visible under the overhanging stone. The light here is dim, filtered through the gaps in the crumbling walls above. The air feels heavier, almost stifling, as though it's thick with the weight of secrets long buried. You pause just outside the alley, listening. The whisper continues, faint but distinct now. It sounds like voices, low, murmuring, too quiet to understand. For a moment, you wonder if it's just your imagination, if the weight of the city is finally getting to you, making you hear things that aren't there. But then a figure appears at the end of the alley, stepping slowly into view. It's a woman, her face hidden in shadow, her body draped in ragged clothing. She moves with a strange grace, her movements fluid but unhurried, as though she has all the time in the world. For a moment, neither of you speaks. The silence stretches between you, thick and palpable. She stands there, watching you with a gaze that seems to pierce through the layers of dust and decay that have accumulated over the years. You take a cautious step forward, unsure of what to say or do. She doesn't seem threatening, but there's something unsettling about the way she stands there, as though waiting for you to make the next move. Then, finally, she speaks. "You're still here," she says, her voice soft but steady, as though she's known all along that you would be. "I didn't think anyone would be left." You swallow hard, unsure of how to respond. The question lingers in the air. Why are you still here? What is it that keeps you moving through this city, through the ruins of a once great civilization? But you don't ask. Instead, you nod, uncertain, try to find the words to explain the unexplainable. "I don't know," you say finally. I just can't leave. Not yet." The woman studies you for a moment, her eyes scanning your face as though trying to see into your soul. Then she nods slowly, as if understanding something you haven't yet figured out. "I'm not sure there's much left to leave behind," she says, her voice barely a whisper, "but you can't stay here forever." The words hang in the air, heavy with meaning. There's a finality to them, as though she's giving you permission to leave, or perhaps urging you to go. To keep moving forward, so no matter how uncertain the path may be. She turns, and for a moment, you think she's going to walk away. But instead, she stops and glances back over her shoulder, her face half hidden in shadow. "If you want to survive," she says, her voice barely audible, "find the water." You blink, unsure of what she means, but before you can ask, she steps back into the alley, disappearing into the darkness like a ghost. For a long moment, you stand there, staring at the spot where she vanished. Her words echo in your mind, "Find the water." What did she mean by that? Why would water be so important in a city like this where the plague has already taken its toll on so many? You don't know, but there's a sense of urgency now, a feeling that whatever it is, you need to find it. And soon. You turn away from the alley, your footsteps carrying you back into the streets. The city is still eerily quiet, the sun now a harsh, unrelenting presence in the sky. You can't help but feel the weight of its gaze on you, as though it's watching, waiting, judging.
The street feels different now, somehow. The air has shifted, carrying a faint undercurrent of moisture like the hint of rain on the horizon. You can almost taste it, though the sky is still a harsh blue, devoid of clouds. It's as if the city itself is holding its breath, waiting for something to change, something to break the long, unrelenting stillness. Your feet move quickly, the urgency growing with each step, your mind racing. Find the water. The words echo in your thoughts like a distant drumbeat. You don't know why they feel so important, but the deeper you wander into the heart of the city, the more you begin to understand. Survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about knowing where the next breath will come from. And right now, water is the only thing that matters. You pass the remains of what used to be a market square, the remnants of life now nothing more than rotting wood and cracked stone. Once, this place had been filled with the bustle of vendors, the cries of merchants hawking their goods, the laughter of children playing in the streets. Now it's just another ruin, empty, abandoned, forgotten. But somewhere within these ruins, you feel there's an answer. Somewhere here is the water you need. The path takes you past old bathhouses, their once immense structures now hollowed shells of what they used to be. The tiles, once polished and gleaming, are now cracked and faded, their grandeur lost to time. The grand fountains that once filled the air with the sound of rushing water now stand still, their pools emptied and dry. You pause at one such fountain, staring down into its deep basin. It's been years since it last saw water, and yet something about it calls to you. The way the stone curves, the patterns etched into the sides, they seem almost familiar, as though they hold some ancient secret that could lead you to the water you seek. But this is no time for idle musings. The woman's words return to you, the urgency of them gnawing at the back of your mind. Find the water. You force yourself to keep moving, to step away from the fountain and back onto the street. The sound of footsteps behind you makes you turn sharply. For a brief moment, you wonder if you've become lost in your own thoughts, if the loneliness of the city has begun to play tricks on your senses. But when you look, you see a figure in the distance, just a shadow, moving in the periphery of your vision. You hesitate, your hand instinctively reaching for the dagger at your side. It's been a long time since you've had to defend yourself, but in a world like this, caution is the only thing that can keep you safe. The figure approaches slowly, the gait uncertain, as though they too are unsure of their next move. And then, as the figure draws closer, you recognize him. It's one of the survivors from the night before, the older man who had told you there was nothing left to say. His face is drawn, his eyes sunken, but there's something in the way he carries himself that suggests he too is searching for something. Something more than just survival. He stops a few paces away, his gaze lingering on you for a moment before he speaks, his voice soft, almost lost in the wind. Looking for the water too, he asks, a knowing smile tugging at the corners of his lips. You nod, though you're not entirely sure what to say. The man seems to understand your hesitation. You won't find it in the fountains, he continues, his voice barely above a whisper. Those are just the remnants of a past life. The water you're looking for, it's deeper. You'll have to go further. You stare at him, unsure of what he means. Further? But where? You glance around, the city stretching out before you in all directions, but no path seems to offer any clear answer. It's as though the entire city is a maze, its secrets hidden behind layers of stone and dust. He reads your confusion with ease. Follow the old aqueducts, he says quietly. There's water beneath the city if you know where to look. It's not much, but it's enough. Enough to keep you alive, at least. You thank him, though the words feel strangely inadequate. There's something in the way he says it, though, that resonates with you. A sense of finality, as if this is the only way forward. You don't question him. Instead, you nod in silent acknowledgement, your mind already racing ahead to the next step. Turning back down the street, you make your way toward the old aqueducts. You don't know if the man is right, if there's really water waiting for you, but something in his words feels true. There's a determination in his voice that you can't ignore. The city grows quieter still as you walk, the buildings stretching up on either side like silent sentinels, their cracked faces turned away from you. The sense of isolation grows stronger with each step, and yet there's a flicker of hope now buried deep within you, a fragile thread that you cling to. You reach the edge of the city soon enough, and there, hidden in the shadows of a collapsed structure, you see the first sign of what the man meant, the faint outline of an aqueduct running beneath the earth. It's old, the stone worn and cracked, but the path it marks is clear. You crouch down to peer into the opening, feeling the cool air that rises from below. It's as though the earth itself is breathing, exhaling the scent of water that's been buried for so long. And in that moment, you realize that you are not just walking through a city of death. You are walking through a city of stories, of whispers, of histories long forgotten. This place, broken as it is, still has something to offer. There's still life here, somewhere, beneath the stone, in the forgotten places, in the cracks where the water still flows. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself for whatever lies ahead. The journey is far from over, but at least now you have a direction.
Darkness of the aqueduct stretches before you, its mouth like the opening of a forgotten cave. For a moment, you stand there, just staring into the shadows, as though waiting for the earth to speak, to tell you whether this path will lead to safety or to something more ominous. The quiet of the city still clings to you, thick and heavy, and in this moment, the silence feels like a weight you must carry. You step forward, feeling the crunch of gravel underfoot as you make your way toward the opening. The smell of damp earth hits you first, followed by the unmistakable scent of stale water. It's strange, almost comforting, like a reminder of something lost, a memory buried in the deep recesses of your mind. The passageway is narrow, the stone walls rough beneath your fingers as you steady yourself. There's something both unnerving and exhilarating about walking through the belly of a city that has long since fallen silent. You imagine the countless footsteps that once echoed here, the workers who moved through this very path, carrying water to those who needed it. And now it's all just a shadow of what it used to be, a passage forgotten by time, waiting for someone like you to discover it once more. The air here is cooler, and it feels like a lifeline, a slight reprieve from the stifling heat of the streets above. As you walk deeper, the stone ceiling begins to arch higher, giving you more room to breathe. Your steps echo softly, but the sound is swallowed by the thick walls. The only other noise is the faint drip of water somewhere in the distance, a sound that brings with it a strange sense of hope. After what feels like an eternity of walking, you come to a small opening, a wider chamber, dimly lit by the faint light seeping in from the far end. The sound of dripping water grows louder now, almost rhythmic, and it's then that you see it, a narrow stream running through the center of the chamber, the water clear and flowing slowly but steadily. You kneel beside it, your fingers trembling as you dip them into the cool liquid. It's nothing like the water you remember from the past. There's no rush, no abundance. It's a quiet, steady flow, as though the earth itself is giving what little it has left. You drink carefully, savoring the coolness on your tongue, and for a moment you feel as though you've found what you've been searching for, something to keep you alive in this broken world. The water is refreshing, but there's something deeper, something more profound in the simple act of drinking from this ancient stream. It's as if, by drinking from it, you are connected to something larger, something that has survived long after the city above has crumbled into ruin. But even as you drink, you can't shake the feeling that this is not enough, that this water, this brief respite, is only the beginning of what you must face. You sit by the stream for a while, taking in the stillness, the solitude. It's strange how peaceful it feels here. The sounds of the outside world, of the plague, of the desperate search for survival seem so far away. It's almost as though you've stepped into another time, another place where the horrors of the city have no reach. But you know better. This is just a pause, a fleeting moment in a much larger story. The question remains, how much longer can you stay here? The water is a gift, yes, but it is not enough to sustain you forever. You cannot live in this chamber forever, no matter how serene it may seem. There are other dangers, other things lurking in the darkness of the city above, things that are far more dangerous than the lack of water. You stand up, wiping your hands on your clothing, and take one last look at the stream before you begin to move again. The journey is far from over. You need more than just water. You need answers. And to find those answers, you have to keep moving, even if it means facing whatever awaits you in the forgotten corners of this city. As you leave the chamber, you feel the weight of the city above you once again. The ruin, the decay, the ghosts of what once was. The world outside is still broken, but in the depths below, you found something that feels almost like hope. And as you move forward, the silence grows deeper still, as though the city itself is holding its breath, waiting for you to uncover the next layer of its forgotten story. There's no turning back now. You step back into the narrow aqueduct, your mind focused on the path ahead. Whatever comes next, you will face it. just as you have faced everything else. The water has sustained you for now, but the city still holds its secrets, and you are determined to uncover them, no matter what it takes.
You move through the aqueducts with renewed purpose, the faint glow of your torch casting long shadows along the stone walls. Every step feels heavier now, not from fatigue, but from the weight of your own thoughts. The water was a small comfort, yes, but it's clear that the deeper you go, the more you are uncovering not just the forgotten city, but your own sense of desperation. The passage grows narrower again, and you find yourself ducking beneath low archways, your back pressed against the stone as you squeeze through tight spaces. The air feels thick with the scent of earth and decay, the walls damp with centuries of accumulated moisture. There's a strange serenity in the oppressive stillness here, almost as though the city beneath the city is holding its secrets close, unwilling to share anything more. The sound of water has now faded into the background, but the deeper you go, the more you begin to feel its presence, like an undercurrent beneath the very stones you walk on. You start to wonder, how much of this system was built to serve the living, and how much of it was meant to shelter the dead? It's not a pleasant thought, but it's one you can't shake. It lingers in your mind like a whisper, a constant reminder of the decay that has overtaken everything. Still, you keep moving, drawn forward by a curiosity you can't quite explain. Maybe it's the need to survive. Maybe it's the need to know if anyone else is still out there, still struggling to hold on to something. As you round another bend in the aqueduct, you come upon a large chamber. The floor is covered with the detritus of time, broken stone, shards of clay pots, pieces of ancient tools. It's clear that this space once served a purpose, though it's hard to say exactly what. The walls are lined with faint carvings, their meaning lost to the ages, and there's a faint, almost imperceptible hum in the air, as though the stone itself is vibrating with some ancient energy. You pause, letting your eyes adjust to the dim light, your fingers brushing over the walls. There's something oddly soothing about this place, despite its desolation. It's as though it's waiting for you, just as you've been waiting for it. Then you notice something in the far corner of the room, something that stands out against the otherwise untouched floor. It's a small chest, partially hidden under a pile of crumbling debris. For a moment, you hesitate. You've learned by now that nothing in this city is as simple as it seems. But curiosity pushes you forward, and with a soft grunt, you clear away the rubble, revealing the chest beneath. It's made of wood, ancient and weathered, its surface worn smooth by time. The hinges are rusted, but the lock is still intact. You kneel down, brushing your fingers over the intricate carvings that decorate the lid. They're familiar in a way you can't place, the symbols ancient, yet strangely comforting. A part of you wonders if this chest has been here for centuries, untouched, waiting for the right person to find it. You pull at the lock, and to your surprise, it gives way with little resistance. The lid creaks open, revealing its contents. Inside, you find something unexpected: old scrolls, their edges frayed with age. They're wrapped in faded cloth, but the ink on the parchment is still legible, though faded. You can't help but feel a thrill of excitement at the discovery. These are ancient documents, perhaps even older than the city itself. You unfurl the first scroll carefully, your fingers trembling as you read the faded writing. It's a list of names, followed by strange symbols you don't recognize. The words are a puzzle, a key to something long lost. You wonder if these names belong to the people who built the aqueducts, or perhaps those who once thrived in this forgotten underground world. But the scrolls offer no easy answers. They're a mystery, a riddle wrapped in history. You carefully roll them back up, the weight of their significance settling heavily in your chest. You're holding onto something precious, something that could hold the key to understanding this place, this city, and maybe even the world that's been lost beneath its rubble. As you carefully place the scrolls back into the chest, you hear something else, a faint, distant sound, almost like a whisper. You freeze, your heart skipping a beat. For a moment, you wonder if it's just the wind or if the city is alive with echoes of its past. But then the sound comes again, closer this time, unmistakable. Footsteps. You grab the chest quickly, pulling it close to your chest and slide back into the shadows, pressing yourself against the cold stone. Your pulse quickens as the footsteps draw nearer. You wait, barely daring to breathe, wondering what could be following you through these forgotten tunnels. The footsteps stop just outside the chamber, and for a moment there's nothing but silence. You hold your breath, hoping that whoever it is will move on, but then you hear the unmistakable creak of stone against stone. Someone is entering the room. You shift, positioning yourself behind a column, hoping the darkness will conceal you. The person or people move cautiously, their movements deliberate, as though they are searching for something. For a long moment they remain silent, their eyes scanning the room. You can't see them, but you can feel their presence, like a weight in the air. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the footsteps fade into the distance, leaving only the silence behind. You wait for several long minutes, making sure they've truly gone before you allow yourself to relax. Whoever they were, they didn't seem to notice you. For now, you are safe. But the encounter has left you with more questions. Who else is wandering these tunnels, and why are they here? What are they searching for? You can't stay here forever. That much is certain. The unknown dangers of this place are growing, and you need to keep moving forward. But now, with the scrolls in hand, you have a new puzzle to solve, a mystery that might just be the key to surviving this city. You rise carefully, tucking the chest away beneath your arm. The path ahead is still unclear, but at least now you have a starting point. The city's secrets are waiting, and you're determined to uncover them, one step at a time.
The air is thicker now as you move through the winding corridors of the aqueduct. With the chest tucked under your arm and the scrolls now securely wrapped, you feel the weight of history pressing against you. There's a tension in the way the stone presses in on you from all sides, an unsettling feeling that perhaps the deeper you go, the further you're stepping away from the world you once knew. The world above, still struggling under the grip of the plague, feels a lifetime away. Down here, beneath the earth, it's as if time itself has folded in on itself and you're lost in a forgotten moment of history. You walk carefully, the torchlight flickering as if echoing your unease. Your footsteps reverberate off the walls, a constant reminder that you're not alone in this place, even though the silence seems to stretch on forever. It's as if the city is watching you, waiting for you to make your next move, your next discovery. The footsteps you heard earlier still linger in your mind, a reminder that you're not the only one trying to uncover the mysteries hidden here. You pass another low arch, the path narrowing even further. The tunnel feels more like a tomb now, the stillness and isolation overwhelming. There's a heaviness in your chest, as though the weight of the city's history has become your own burden to carry. Yet, despite the discomfort, there's something oddly comforting about it too, a strange, quiet sense of purpose. You're a part of something now, something far larger than yourself. You're on the edge of a discovery that could change everything. At the next junction, you pause, looking down one path and then the other. Both seem to lead deeper into the labyrinth. You could go either way, but something in the silence tells you to follow the left passage. The walls here are smooth, too smooth, and the air carries a strange chill, the kind that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. You know that whatever lies ahead isn't just another forgotten room. This part of the aqueduct feels different. The walls almost seem to hum with energy, though you can't quite place the source. As you continue down the left passage, you begin to notice something even stranger. The walls are adorned with carvings. They're not the crude markings you've seen elsewhere. These are intricate, carefully done, as though someone took great care in crafting them. The designs are unmistakably human, with strange figures intertwined in patterns, their faces calm and serene. Some are familiar to you, figures from the ancient Roman pantheon, but others are unfamiliar, with elongated features and stylized eyes that seem to follow you as you walk. You stop, running your fingers gently over one of the carvings, feeling the cool stone beneath your touch. The figures seem almost lifelike, as though they could move at any moment. It's as if they are telling you a story, one that has been forgotten for centuries, buried beneath the weight of time. The air grows colder as you study the carvings, and for a moment you feel as though you've stepped into another world altogether. The tunnel opens up ahead into a large chamber, its walls adorned with more carvings, more of those strange figures. In the center of the room is a stone altar, worn and chipped with age, but still standing strong. The altar is surrounded by a ring of tall, thin columns, their tops shaped like spirals. A faint light seems to emanate from the center of the room, casting long shadows across the floor. You approach cautiously, the chest still held close to your side. There's a strange sense of reverence in the air, as though this place was once sacred, a site for rituals long since abandoned. The light flickers again, and you notice something you hadn't seen before, a faint glow coming from within the altar. It's almost imperceptible, a shimmer in the stone that seems to pulse with a rhythm of its own. Your heart quickens as you move closer, drawn by the pull of the altar. You set the chest down carefully on the stone surface, your fingers trembling as you reach out toward the altar. As you touch the surface, you feel a warmth spread through your hand, as though the stone is alive, responding to your touch. Suddenly, the ground beneath you shifts, the stone beneath your feet groaning as though it's alive. The chamber trembles, and for a moment you wonder if the very earth is going to swallow you whole. You stumble back, eyes wide with shock, but the shaking stops as suddenly as it began. The altar remains still, the glow inside it flickering once more. The sensation is strange, unsettling. You can't help but wonder, what did you just awaken? What ancient power have you disturbed in this forgotten city? You glance around the chamber, your pulse racing. The figures on the walls seem to stare back at you, their eyes hollow and knowing. The silence returns, but it feels heavier now, as though something has changed in the air. The scrolls in your chest, those ancient documents that may hold the key to understanding this place, feel heavier now, as though they too sense the shift in the atmosphere. There's no turning back now. You've uncovered something, but what it is, you still don't know. The secrets of this city, of its creators, of its past, are beginning to surface. And though the answers may lie within those scrolls, you're not sure you're ready to face what they might reveal. But you have no choice. You pick up the chest, feeling the weight of the past in your hands, and begin to move toward the exit. Whatever happens next, you know that you're not alone down here anymore. The city's spirits have awoken, and they are watching, waiting for you to uncover the final pieces of their forgotten story. As you step back into the passage, the glow of the altar still flickering in your mind, you know that you've only scratched the surface of what's to come. The journey is far from over. The city is still full of secrets, and you will uncover them, one step at a time. Now you must face the unknown, for there is no other way forward.